Alright, I'm going to do another video on Vantage Point 10 Plus. It's been about a year since I did my last video, and I used it for, like I said, another year now, and I'm liking it even better. So I decided to do another video, and I'll start out with a little brief history of who I am. I had an interest in starting trading in my early 30s, probably. At the time, I knew nothing. Just you can buy a stock and you can sell a stock. I bought 3 stocks. One that I knew from college, which was Borland Industries. They were the creator of Turbo C, not C plus or C plus plus or anything like that. I think it might have been the first iteration of C. I don't know what happened to them, but I lost all my money there. I bought another stock called Coastal Caribbean that, well, I got one of those pump and dump flyers in the mail and said, wow, this is great. They had a bunch of offshore drilling sites off the coast of Florida and in the Gulf down there. I lost all my money in that. And the last stock I bought was clearly Canadian. It was another pump and dump stock. Didn't have much luck with that. So after that, I kind of, took a break because life happened, kids, family, got married, all that stuff happened in between. So back in 2015, I decided to start again. At that point, I tried to read, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I did everything I could possibly do to learn something. And I found out there's lots of good information and lots of bad information. Of course, I didn't know at the time. Basically, just absorbed as much as I could. I tried a lot of services. Some are good services. Some are not so good. Some are really expensive. Some are not. Someone once told me that good traders trade. That's exactly what they do. Good traders, they trade. The ones that aren't that good, they start selling services. And they make lots of money that way. I found a lot of those. So I'm here to try to help you avoid some of that. I was looking for the perfect indicator, the one thing that'll make my trading go from not that great to I'm going to make tons of money overnight. Well, that doesn't really exist. You just definitely need a knowledge of the markets. You need a knowledge of chart reading if you're going to do short-term trading. All that kind of stuff is part of the repertoire you need to be successful. And in my journeys, I stumbled across software called Vantage Point, and I tried it. Back then, it was Vantage Point 9. I looked into it. I read some reviews. I watched some videos like you're doing, and I decided to give it a shot. In the beginning, it was a little difficult for me to use it because I didn't understand the markets and how to read the signals that I was getting. It wasn't so much the software itself difficult to use. It was the interpretation part, which was my fault, not the software's fault. So why do I use Vantage Point? Well, I found out that there's no one indicator that will be the holy grail that everybody's looking for, and all the people starting into getting into trading, they're looking for that holy grail. They're looking for that one indicator that'll bring them over the edge. They're looking for that one combination of indicators that'll take them over the edge. It doesn't exist. You need an edge. You have to find an edge. It's not going to be one thing that's going to be make or break. You need an edge. That's what you're looking for. Vantage Point for me is that edge. Why is that? Because it helps me filter out what I'm looking for really fast, really quick, and it helps me focus on the markets that are available that have the criteria that I'm looking for. It saves time by the use of what they have in their software called Intelliscan. And what Intelliscan is, you can configure it to search for the criteria that you want in a stock, whatever that happens to be, and it'll sort through thousands of stocks in a matter of seconds, literally, and spit out a short list of stocks that fit your criteria, which you can then look at on the charts and determine which ones you want to trade, making that list even shorter. Once Intelliscan filters the stocks down to a few good ones, you then take the list, go through the charts one by one with the select few that Intelliscan comes up with, and you decide which ones you think might be the right trades based on your fundamental analysis that you've learned along the way, which is part of this whole journey. You will get some stocks that fit your criteria but really don't look like a good trade. It might be in a area of chop at the moment, and you really can't determine a direction you think it's going to go. If it does even go direction, might just continue chopping for a while. Another way I use Vantage Point is to actually help me learn what I'm looking at. And one of those ways that I use it for teaching and training myself is finding support and resistance. So in this case here, if you look, there's a lot of chop going on sideways. Where's the support? Where's the resistance? So support is defined by a low, basically a pivot low with two higher lows on each side. And resistance would be a pivot high with two lower highs on each side. So this would be resistance right here, because you have two lower highs on each side. That's a verified resistance zone. That market bounced off of that price for some reason and headed down. It went up here, it was going up, and it bounced and headed down for a reason. Same as here. This would be a support low, verified low, which would be support, and the reason that is because you have two higher lows on each side. So that the stock came down, it bounced off of that for some reason and decided to go back up. People decided at that low point it was worth buying again, and the stock went back up. Well, how do I use Vantage Point to help me find those? There is a function called verified resistance and verified support zones, and that does exactly what we just talked about. So if I turn those on by clicking them, you'll see that this is a verified resistance zone. Here also is a pivot high and another verified resistance zone. It'll show the last two pertinent ones on highs and lows. It'll still keep the lines where they used to be, so you can see that once you get up here in price, well, back here there was a resistance zone. The two closest ones to the price action current is shown with green areas. But anyway, this kind of helps you find and trains you to look at this chop and, okay, this is where I think it is. Now I can actually see it. It's a very helpful tool. I encourage you to do that if you want to learn how to read the charts. That's one thing you need to know. Okay, I'm going to give you a short, brief walkthrough of the important parts of Vantage Point and how easy it is to use. You have your markets tab here, and that'll open up the markets, which is this here, and it'll show you what markets you actually have. Okay, so you have futures, you have forex, you have ETF, you have U.S. stocks, Canada stocks. This is called Stock Club, which you subscribe to on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, and there are stocks that are constantly coming in every week. They update it with new stocks, and they'll show the positions that they have, that they added. Here's your portfolios that you can build, and these are the open windows that shows you what's open in the chart right now. I have Roku and IBM open. This is the portfolio tab where you can actually open a portfolio that you have saved. You can see I have saved several of them already. I'll show you how to build a portfolio later. This is the Intelliscan tab, and this is same thing as the portfolio. You can build a lot of Intelliscans, and you can save those so you can use them later on, and I'll show you how to do that. This is the indicator tab, which is basically over here, and it'll show you what indicators are available that you can use. This is all part of the system. So you have the MACD, RSI, stochastics, TSI, and you have the Intelliscan criteria that you can pick from to build the Intelliscan. You have predicted indicators which you can use to build the Intelliscan. These are all things that you can search for with Intelliscan. So how do you build a portfolio? So let's do that real quick. So first thing you want to do is click New Portfolio, and you want to save the current. I'm not going to do that right now. And you open up your markets, and let's say I wanted to build a portfolio of, let's say, all US stocks. So you just click there and add to portfolio. So now you have 1,220 stocks in your portfolio that this has, and you can see they're all there. So now I built my portfolio. How am I going to find that? Okay, so let's do a new Intelliscan. Let's do a new Intelliscan. All right, and then we're going to take that portfolio and add all to the Intelliscan. So I just took all of those stocks that I built that portfolio and added it to this Intelliscan. Okay. Now you can pick your directions. Let's say we want to look for everything that's predicted to go up. So we have a direction. Let's turn on the filters, and we're going to pick up for every one of them. And then you can save the you don't have to go through this step every time. Up, okay? So now we're looking at all the stocks that have predicted values to go up. Now there's quite a few because the market's been rallying lately. So you still have quite a few to go through. Now you want to sort it by days, and I'll show you that. So let's look at Cummins, okay? You click on that, and it's showing you that the crossover is to the long side, which is saying that this stock should continue up. But as you can see, there's a verified resistance zone here. So we're kind of looking at a short little blip here that it might go up, and then you might run into some trouble. So you remember I said that you can save your Intelliscan ups and downs or views the way you have it. So you want it. So right now I have it all up. So I'm going to save that view and call it rename. And I'm going to call these longs. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is create a tab, another tab, and I'm going to import that same portfolio to that Intelliscan tab. Now they're all there, and I'm going to turn on the filters, which is the criteria you're looking for, and I'm going to switch all of these to down. So now I'm looking for everything that is predicted to go down tomorrow or Monday, and this should be a much shorter list. And if you can see here, I had 1,220 and I only have 50 left, so that shortened it considerably. And you can see that I have it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rename this tab, and we're going to call it shorts. Okay, so now next time you go into this Intelliscan with all US stocks, you don't have to reset everything. You just go to longs and you go to shorts. The next time everything updates tomorrow or the next day, this thing will be different, the outcome will be different, and you'll have longs and shorts just like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this Intelliscan. So I'll go to Intelliscan, save as, and call it whatever you want to. I'm going to call it all US long and short. Okay, and you know what, let's put a number in here so we can find it. Either 11, let's call it 1, and that way it'll be right at the top. Sometimes something important like this will market health. It's a few of the markets that kind of help determine what the overall market status is. I want that at the top, so I just put a 1 in there. You can name it a 2, 3, 4, whatever. So I'm going to save it. Okay, so now if we want to go to Intelliscan, open Intelliscan, you'll have all long US short, and you just open that up, and you'll have that exact same outcome as you did the day before, and you have your longs and shorts available. See? And it just scanned all of that information, all of these thousands of stocks, well, not thousands, but 1,200 stocks, and we got it down to a shorter list. Obviously, the longs are much better, longer, because there's a bigger list due to the rally that we've had in the market the past couple of days. So let's take a little glimpse into what Vantage Point is actually doing with its AI. Obviously, we won't see all of the information that's happening because that's proprietary and patented, but I can show you what goes into determining what will happen or won't happen. So if we go to, let's take a look at the Under Armour. So we'll go to the markets, and we'll click in Under Armour, open it up, and you'll see properties. So if we open up the properties, it'll tell you some general information, and then here's a tab that says Inner Markets. Now this is a little advanced, but it's interesting to know what's actually going on. So when they add a market to Vantage Point, they train it. It's called training. They train the market, and if it's trainable, they'll add it into the Vantage Point software so you can actually use it. So when they train it, Vantage Point AI has determined that all these markets here in the sectors, whatever it says here, is being used to make the prediction. And now how it's being used, why it's being used, we don't know, because that's the under the hood patented secret sauce, so to speak. Okay, but all these intermarkets are used to determine what Vantage Point thinks will happen the next day. And that intermarket will create this little gray bar right here. And this is called the predicted high and low, P high, P low. And it's saying that tomorrow, Vantage Point AI has determined that the P high is 18.08 and 17.53. Now, is that spot on every time? No, but it's close. And we can actually take a look at that by changing the view of the chart, and it'll show you the P high and P low, which is those predicted values from the previous day. And you can see that these lines are actually getting pretty close to the markets the way they look. Let's take a narrower focus on that. You can see that these highs have been hitting pretty well, and these lows have been hitting pretty well here and here. Now here's a big gap up. It might have been earnings, I don't know, I didn't look. You can see even here when it's been fluctuating a lot, the highs and lows have been pretty close. One of the ways I've used this, I've been experimenting with this recently, is I use the highs and lows for the next day, the predicted high and low, and I'll make a big line on my chart. And I have other indicators on my chart for intraday. They're intraday indicators, and along with the highs and lows that it predicts, I can actually get some trades with better certainty, the edge, if you want to call it that, which is what we're looking for. It's the edge, okay? So I'll make those lines on my chart. When price action gets to those areas, that the P high or P low, I'll look at my other indicators that I have in my chart, and it might show me that, you know what, I think it's going to turn around. And without the P high and P low, the indicators that I have, they're just not reliable. They happen sometimes, they don't happen other times. You just don't know. And that's what I found the main problem is with the indicators that are available. You just don't know. They're not accurate, they're not predictable, and they're not consistent. Now, when you have this P high and P low information, predicted high and predicted low information, you have an extra layer of certainty that goes into your decision making. And that is an edge. That's what we're looking for. So using the predicted high or low is just one of the ways that Vantage Point will help you get an edge on your trading. Another important portion of Vantage Point is this neural index. This is called a neural index here. And it basically shows you when it's green, it's going to be a period of up movement, and when it's red, it's showing you that there's going to be a period of down movement. So if, for example, you were at this day without seeing the rest of this chart, you see that the previous 3 days were red. This is like a 48-hour look ahead, and it's telling you that chances are pretty good it's going to continue on a downward path. There's also a way that you can add another layer of certainty to it, and it's called with strength. And what that does is it'll show you that there's a double green bar here. So if let's say you're here at this day and you didn't have any of this information, that was all the future. Now you have 2 green bars. Chances are pretty good that it's going to go up. Now, you did have it gapped up from the previous day. It gapped up and it closed down, but it's still higher than the low was. Same thing here. It basically opened up at the same area and closed. It might have come down a little bit by the tail here, and then it goes up. And same thing here. You can see that the green candles are coming. Okay, so that's another way to have more certainty. Another way of determining how things are going with the market is by using these differentials here, the short-term differential, medium-term differential, long-term, and here it's showing you the colors dark blue, cyan, and light blue. So when you see the differential stacked like this, short, medium, and long, and they're both pointing up, that's another good indication that the stock will continue in the direction that it's indicating. Just like here, you can see these are all going down. Obviously, this must have been earnings here, so it's really not a good example. But for here, let's say they're all above each other and they're pointed up, it's a pretty good example or a pretty good indication that it'll continue in that trend. Now, if you're in a trade and you see the short term dip under the rest of them, at this point, if I was in this trade and I took all these longs and then I saw that short term dip under, I would probably get out, and based on some of the other information. So here you're seeing the neural index was double, now it's single, and you had the short term differential go below. So for me, I probably would have gotten out there. It was also overbought on the RSI, so it's kind of telling me that maybe it's time to get out. And also at that point in time, you were very close to the resistance area. You were just breaking through it a little bit, so chances are that it might have turned around at that point. Another way I like to use Vantage Point, and I learned this from one of the instructors at Vantage Point. They have experts that help you with your trading and help you find what you're looking for, help you set up the Intelliscan, and show you different ways of using the software. Remember I said that everything was pretty configurable. So there's something called the T-cross long. Let's go and I'll show you that view is the triple cross. I'm sorry. This is what's called the triple cross, and it's 3 lines that'll show you strength and weakness, and it kind of gives you colors to help. So here you can see that your red, now it's starting to turn yellow. You get a double bar. Prices above this, chances are pretty good that it's going to turn around. I mean, everything here is looking positive at this point right here. So if you did not see any of this chart and you were at this candle right here that day, and the next day you decided you were going to get in, you had a pretty good uptrend here, even though that the stock closed down from its open, right? This is the open, this is the close. Even though it closed down from its open, it's still higher than it was yesterday, and everything is showing positive that it's a pretty good idea that there's going to be a good uptrend here, and it is correct at this point. You have the RSI sloping upwards, not quite in the oversold area yet. You have the predicted ranges all facing upwards. You have all the crosses here. You have the double strength neural. There's a lot there that's positive. Well, one of the ways I like to use it, you have the triple cross. So what I do is I isolate, and again, this is not my idea. This is from one of the instructors at Vantage Point. I isolate the long term, which is this line here. You can actually go ahead if you do the triple cross and you create a copy, you'll have the exact same thing, which was this, okay? And then you go to properties, you rename it triple cross long only, and then what I did was I turned off the visible short term and the medium term. I turned it off, and I only did the long term, and I changed the colors and dashed it. And basically I created a new indicator from an old indicator, just so I don't have to redo it every time. And basically what it looks like, if you go to that, well, that's superimposed. Let's do this first for a second here. Hold on a second. Let's go to medium term crossover, and now you'll see this is just a medium term, and here is the triple cross long only. And what the instructor mentioned to me is once price action breaks through there, you have a pretty good indicator that things will be going long. And once price action breaks through below, you have a pretty good indicator that things are going low. And you can actually see it bounced right off of that triple cross long until it got here. Okay, and then you have other indications that it might be turning around there. You might not hit it perfectly, but it certainly gives you the edge that we're looking for. You can see price went above it, and it stayed above up until here, stayed above. So you had a pretty good trade from here to here. Okay, now this is a bad example because there's earnings here. Let's see if Cummins does anything better. We just hit earnings session. So let's turn off the verified resistance zone. And let's look, you know what, let's turn off the medium term crossover, which should be that. So now all we have is price action. And let's turn on wait a minute, where would that would be here. I'm sorry, the triple cross long only, okay? So that's that line that I isolated from the triple cross indicator. I took the long only, and you can see once price gets above this, it's gonna stay long. And usually when I have this, I'll stay in the trade because I have a pretty good idea that it's gonna bounce above. Now here's two that it dropped below, and this is red, and everything here is looking down. I probably would have gotten out here, but then again the next day it went positive, and it stayed positive again for quite a while. Once it broke down here, this again is a gap down. I'm thinking this is earnings here. It stayed down for quite a while until you got indication by agreeing here. A lot of things are pointing up. RSI is beginning to move up. Well, it looks like it could go up, and sure enough, it had 2 down days. the trick, trap, and fool crew came in and tricked you with a breakout. They went back down, but then one more time, and it had a good rally. So that's one of the ways I like to use the triple cross long. And again, this is not my idea. This is one of the instructors at Vantage Point that showed me this, and I use that quite often, along with all the other things that Vantage Point offers. I use that to come up with some pretty good trades. Now, I've showed you some basic functions of Vantage Point, how to build a portfolio, how to build an Intelliscan, different ways you can customize the indicators and use them. Obviously, you can use it for Forex. These are the Forex. You have major pairs. These are the ones that I have. And there's some cross pairs. These are the ones that I have. I don't have all of them. You can do the same thing for ETFs. And that's broken down into US ETFs, everything that's listed here. The US stocks is broken into categories. You have the basic material, cannabis, capital goods, everything that's listed here. There are some Canadian stocks which I don't have. I don't have the Canadian stock sector, but some of them fall under Stock Club. So that's why that I have some of the stocks here, but I didn't see it. It'll tell you that it's a Stock Club stock, and that's why it's here. It actually falls under this. Okay, and you can also do futures with it, the currencies. I don't have many. I just use the dollar. I have crude oil, and I have the S&P 500s and indices, so I can see the whole thing as a whole, which you can see right now. Everybody's talking. Right now, everybody's saying, oh my God, the market's going to die. The market's going to die. It's going to crash. Everything, it's Armageddon. Well, if you look at this, it's been going up, and it's still showing me everything right here is still looking positive. And here's the predicted range for tomorrow. Okay, now, that's not to say that a tweet can't crash this whole thing. Anytime, at any moment, a tweet, bad news, a disruption in China, bombing on some oil field, whatever it is, Vantage Point is not going to predict those. It can't. But it certainly gives you the edge to comfortably know that, well, things are looking pretty good, and it probably should stay on track. I mean, look at that beautiful ride up. And just out of curiosity, let's take a look at it with the T-cross long. Okay, so right here we had some chop. The market went down a little bit, and here it crossed, and it never looked back. And that's why I like this T-cross long way of looking at things. You can see pretty good that, it showed me here again. It was up, everything was up. Then we had a down day, and sure enough, after that, it took a move down. And then we had a few days of uncertainty here, chop, whatever you want to call it. And then once we broke above it, we stayed above it for quite a long time. And we're still fairly long above it. So, yeah, we had some down days in here. But reviewing these days in the S&P, I probably would have stayed in there if I was playing that particular market. So getting back to the futures, and then I have metals, I have gold that I just happen to look at. I mean, there's plenty more that I don't have that you can get if you want, depending on how you trade. It all depends on what you're looking for and what you're trading. Another quick thing I wanted to talk about is the support. So I belong to a service which I'm not going to mention, and their way of doing things has to do with the Bollinger Band. So if I turn on that Bollinger Band, which I have, and put it on the chart, I needed a way to scan for the amount of time that stock price was within the Bollinger Band and when it broke out. And I'm not going to get into why, because as I said, that's a different it's a different system from somebody else, and I'm not going to talk about their service. But what I'm getting at here is, if you, let's see, I'm going to add this to the Intelliscan. Now it's going to be kind of, well, let's see. So let's go to the Intelliscan now. So now I added the Bollinger Band to the Intelliscan. And here I have the upper limit, the lower limit. And at that point in time, there was no days below, days above, and days between. So I sent an email to the person that handles my account for Vantage Point 10 Plus, and the same day she responded to me, and that is pretty much the norm. I always get a response within the same day. She said there was no way of doing that at the moment, but she will recommend it to the programmers at Vantage Point. About a week, maybe a week and a half, but I think closer to a week, I got an email back and said, refresh your charts, your subscription, which you basically just come over here and activate and renew. And once you do that, it gives you the most current version of Vantage Point, and if there's a little tweak or something. And that's when they added these criteria in for me. So the point I'm trying to make here is their support is second to none. They immediately get on any requests that you have. It becomes a challenge to them, as the person handling my account told me. She says once you make a suggestion, it becomes a challenge to see if they can do it, which is phenomenal. I mean, you don't hear of that some of the other services. It's, well, when we get to it. I made some recommendations to TD Ameritrade, which is the platform I use, a quick way to turn on and off indicators, because you have to go through a series of menus to turn on and off an indicator. And I saw it on here. Basically, you could just, well, let's go back to the chart. You can basically go in there, and instead of going through a series of menus to do that, I don't know why my mouse isn't working, you can turn on and off the indicator just like that with one mouse click. So I said, hey, this is a great function. Can we do that? And yeah, we'll get to it. That was 2 years ago, and still not there. Granted, TD Ameritrade probably has, a gazillion requests compared to what Vantage Point has, but the point is they actually do it. They make an effort, and they do it when you want it. So I can't speak highly enough about the support that you get. And if you have requests, if you have questions, they'll help you set it up. They'll help you do whatever it is that you want to do. They are there to help and make you feel comfortable with what you have purchased. Simple as that. That's all I can say about that. So, to summarize the whole experience that I've had with Vantage Point since, I think I got this in late 2015, so the last 3.5, 4 years, I can't speak highly enough. I use this software all the time, on a daily basis. The last few months back, I didn't do any trading because of personal issues within the family, so I didn't use it then. But I use it in my trading, and I've learned to adapt my trading to Vantage Point. I use Vantage Point to help me make decisions intraday, which I've showed you before. It certainly adds an extra layer of certainty to the price action that I see, whereas if I just use the indicators that I have on my platform intraday, sometimes it's right, and it turns where it's supposed to, pivots where it's supposed to, and sometimes it's not, and it doesn't pivot where it's supposed to, and that's where you get into trouble. Now, if I have the highs and lows, the predicted highs and lows for the next day, it helps. It certainly helps that when price action gets near those areas, I mean, they pick those numbers for a reason. And I've also noticed that if the price gaps over the predicted range, which I've seen recently especially, the predicted high becomes support. And that is along the lines of, some of the fundamentals of chart reading. Once resistance becomes support, and support becomes resistance once you break through it, right? If you have a resistance area and a price comes up underneath it and bounces down and reverses, and comes up and bounces down and reverses, once it breaks through that area tends to become support. So now price comes down and bounces off to the other side. Doesn't always happen there, but it tends to happen there. Okay? There's nothing finite about trading. It is a learning experience every day, and I don't think there's a person that trades every day or trades on a regular basis that can say there is anything certain about the market. There are things that you can use that'll give you, like I said before, it'll give you the edge. And the more of those things that you use, whatever they are, is an edge that'll help your trading be more successful. For me, my edge is Vantage Point. I can't stress that enough. I encourage you, if you're on the fence, I encourage you, give them a call. Give them a call and just let them walk you through it. They'll show you the same thing I did. They'll probably be more in depth than I am, because I use it a certain way. I don't know all the features, and they'll walk you through the whole thing in the process. I can't encourage you enough. I was on the fence. I admit it freely when I was I don't know if I'm going to do this. I bought this, I bought that, I bought this. None of it helped. Once I purchased this and I understood how to use it, along with the fundamentals that you need to read a chart, that's when my trading turned, and I'm starting to become successful at trading. So take a look at it. If you think it's going to help you, go for it. If you don't, it's not a skin off my back. I don't make this software. I'm just a user, and I'm just trying to help you go through or not go through some of the things that I went through with buying all these services and all these indicators that people are trying to sell you. That's the magic indicator on your chart, and once you have this, you'll know everything. It doesn't exist. I bought plenty of those indicators from various vendors. Some of them help, some of them don't. I think Vantage Point is the one thing that helped me and become more successful, give me a consistently certain edge that helps my trading. So give them a call and try it out. That's all I could tell you. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed my little summary of Vantage Point. I'll probably be doing some more videos in the future. I kind of took a year off. Like I said, there were some issues that I went through with family, and it took me away from trading for a while, and I'm looking to get back into it. And you could tell that I'm not an expert at doing this, because my videos are I don't make a video every 5 seconds like some of these people do, yelling and screaming how they're going to have a yacht and a jet, and if you buy their service, or like I said before, good traders trade. The not so good traders start to sell services, and they all have yachts, they all have jets, they're all smoking cigars, and they're all making $1 million every day. The only way you're going to do that is to work at it. There's no magic bullet. Try Vantage Point. It'll help you out. Thank you. Enjoy your night.